In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to leverage my free contract template in order to get your recruiting agency off of the ground. Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Natasha, the business recruiter. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, so we are jumping right into this video with me screen sharing my free contract template that is currently available for download on my website. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, then I will leave the link down below in the description box for you to go ahead, go to my website and download the contract template. That way you can follow along with me. So this contract template is actually pretty straightforward. It's something that I went through and actually created myself. So it hits on every single element that you need in regards to potentially being able to get a signed contract from a prospective client. So let's go ahead and jump into it with the first part of this contract really being all of the elements that are going to be associated with your brand. So we start at the top here with inserting your company logo or your company letterhead. Keep in mind that this is a step that you should have done in the very beginning when you established that you wanted to start a recruiting agency. You should have put together some form of a logo that represents exactly who you are. So this is where this logo is going to be placed. And then you want to include the month, day, and year of the actual day that you would be sending over the contracts. And then you want to make sure that you include your name, your title, and then of course your company name. Now, when it comes to your title, be very strategic in regards to how you leverage this, meaning that your title should be consistent across the board. So whatever your title is that you're leveraging on LinkedIn should be what's here. Whatever title you have on your website for yourself should be what's here. You want to make sure that there is consistency in regards to how you're going about marketing yourself. So then you're going to go down, and then as we get into the contract, again, you're going to want to put your company's name here. And this line basically identifies the fact of what it is that you will be doing for the particular company and what role it is that you're going to be playing. You want to make sure that you include some form of a disclaimer in regards to the fact that you will abide by all laws related to civil rights in Title VII as it relates to you going about speaking to candidates and recruiting them. Now we're getting into your fee in regards to your placement fee for the services that you'll be providing your prospective client. Now, keep in mind, once again, I think I've done a ton of videos at this point in regards to fees. This fee is going to be whatever you feel you are worth from a value perspective. I've seen 10% at the lowest, and like I said, I've seen 40% at the highest. Keep in mind what type of position it is that you're looking to fill. Also think about the level of position that it is that you're looking to fill. So is it an entry-level role or is it more mid or senior level? All of those things should be taken into consideration when you're trying to determine exactly what your fee is going to be. So with that stated, in this section, you want to put, of course, your company name, but then also that fee. I don't recommend, even if you're in the beginning stages, going below 15%. At minimum, I think 15% is fair, especially when we think about the state of the world at this point, inflation, and then all of those things off the table, just the amount of time, effort, and energy that you're going to put into conducting this search in order to fill the requisition. You want to make sure that you're compensated fairly. Okay, so this next section here really focuses on if the candidate was to resign or be terminated for any reason at all, like what does that guarantee period really look like? And that's what this is considered, is to be the guarantee clause. So if the candidate ceases to be employed by you on or before the date 90 days after the candidate starts work due to resignation or termination for cause, we will work to locate a replacement candidate for that position for no additional fee, as long as we are notified within X number of working days of the termination of the candidate's employment. So basically, this is your guarantee in regards to how long you have until you have to replace a candidate. So let's say that this particular candidate, which would then be their employee, decides to leave the company on their 92nd day. Well, this is actually outside of the guarantee period that you have established in this contract. So if they leave on the 92nd day, you are not required to replace that candidate for free. At that point, if they want to continue to leverage you in order to replace the candidate, they would have to pay you an additional 15%. So this next line is actually one of my favorites, and I haven't seen it in a ton of contracts. And for me, it's one of those situations where no matter how much time and energy you put into vetting the perfect prospective client, you're gonna get those clients who are just not gonna pay you. Like, it happens. It has happened to me multiple times. So with that stated, you wanna make sure that you are able to protect yourself in situations in which you have a client who you've taken all of this time to vet who chooses not to pay you. So basically what this sentence says is, however, if your payment is not made within said period of outlined above, you will have no further obligation to replace the candidate in the event the candidate ceases to be employed by you. Meaning, if they don't pay you on time and then for whatever reason the candidate chooses to leave, again, you have no obligation as the recruiting agency owner to replace that candidate, because as a client to you, they didn't even pay you. So it's a very important sentence that's in there that should be in every single contract. So then this next sentence is really just focused on the fact that your client is not obligated to any of the terms within this clause until they've actually hired on the candidate. It's just saying in whatever form that is, whether it's an employee, a consultant, independent contractor, like whatever that looks like, they're not obligated to any of these terms that we've outlined thus far until they've actually hired on that particular candidate. This portion here, which is also really important, which outlines your net payment terms. And your net payment terms typically in this industry are going to be net 30. I've had questions out there in regards to, well, can I make it like net 15 or net 10? You know, keep in mind that when it comes to payment terms, at times it can be difficult to even adhere to net 30. You also want to be mindful of the fact that you want to give your client enough time in order to pay the invoice, especially contingent on the size of the company that you're working with. They may have some form of an internal accounting department in which your invoice has to go through. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about your payment terms. Not to say that you want to give any leeway to your client, but you do also want to be reasonable. And net 30 tends to be very reasonable when it comes to the recruiting industry. So this basically just says that the fee is due and payable in full within 30 days upon receipt of your invoice, which will be delivered to you on the candidate's first day of employment. And that's another important piece as well regarding the candidate's first day of employment. I always send my invoice on the first day that they've officially started the position. And the reason being is because at that point, they've technically started with the company. They're an employee, even though it's the first day. So I put a lot of work and energy in order to get that candidate to that point. So I want to make sure that I send my invoice as soon as possible, meaning that first day that they start, so that those net 30 payment terms can begin to go into effect. Our next clause here, this clause is really focused on duplications in terms of the recruitment process. And when I say duplications, I mean that you have submitted a candidate that this particular client has maybe already talked to or is already in conversations with. Keep in mind, a lot of times, even though you will be hired on to assist with the search, unless it's a retained search, unless it's an exclusive search, meaning that no other recruiting agencies or even the internal department is working on the search, there is a huge possibility that the company is still continuing to recruit even internally. So it could be possible that there are some duplication of efforts or duplication of applications. This just basically says that if you submit a duplicate candidate who is already active in their files, then you'll go ahead and you'll withdraw any claim to that candidate for that submission once they notify you. However, once you contact us to initiate the interview process of a candidate we presented to you, we will have agency of record for that candidate, which just basically means that whoever gets to the candidate first is the one who can claim them and ultimately is the one who can get the check for them if they're hired on. Okay, so then we are going to go to our next clause here. And this clause basically protects you as the recruiting agency owner in regards to candidates who you have chosen to present to your client, who they have decided to decline for whatever reason. Maybe they weren't a fit for that role, but let's say that maybe it's 6 months later and there's a different role open and that particular client wants to explore that candidate as an option. Well, as long as they do that within 1 year, you can actually still get payment for that particular candidate that you presented. Once you've done that work and you've presented the candidate, if it turns out that maybe later down the line is when they want to explore that candidate being an employee for them, then that's perfectly fine. You can still get paid for it. Okay, and then the last section here is really just focused on closing out the contract, talking about the long-term active relationship that you're hoping to be able to establish with this particular client. And then it has a section where both you and your client can go ahead and sign. So you'll send this over with your information already on here as well as your signature. It can be an actual physical signature or an electronic signature, whichever one you prefer. And then you'll send it over to your prospective client for them to be able to review and then go ahead and sign from there. And that is how you actually go about leveraging my free contract template in order to get your recruiting agency off of the ground. Okay, so I know that we talked about a lot in this video. I do hope that you found it to be helpful. If you have any questions, then feel free to comment down below what your questions are. I'm more than happy to provide some more context or detail for you in regards to that. But I really appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.